Today I'm behind the wheel of a brand new 2021 Honda Odyssey. And the Honda Odyssey is America's best-selling minivan, and for 2021 it gets a refresh. There are subtle changes on the outside and minor tweaks on the inside. So if you're shopping for a minivan, keep watching. First, let me show you the outside and talk about some of these changes for 2021. First, I want to give big thanks to Honda of Laos, which made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Honda, make sure you check them out. Their URL is in the description below. Now for 2021, the Odyssey receives a brand new front end design, including a brand new grille that is blacked out with a strip of chrome across the top, and that is matched in the rear that I'll get to in a little bit. Also, the headlights are improved. They're LED with LED daytime running lights. They are enhanced over the last generation. On the bottom of the bumper, the vents, the intakes have been revised, and the fog light housings have been redesigned, and you can see the turn signals and the fog lights are on each side. Now moving to the side, there's no significant changes for 2021. If you're choosing the Elite model, you do get different 19-inch wheels. This one comes standard with 18-inch wheels. This one I'm testing is the EXL trim. Now, if you take a look, there is a chrome stripe right underneath the window that goes all the way to the back. It's matched with chrome door handles. I think that looks good, especially on a black car like this. And the wheel design isn't too bad either. Now, towards the back, it still looks like a minivan. You do have a large privacy glass, you have a spoiler on top, and LED taillights. Now the biggest change in the back is that one black strip that is now black, and there's a thin chrome bar across it that stretches from one taillight to the other. That's the biggest change in the back. There's still no exhaust tips, nothing like that. Because this is the EXL, you get a lot of standard features, a lot of power functions. For example, you do get a power liftgate. And of course, you get power sliding doors. Now, who needs to get a Model X for its Falcon doors when you could get power sliding doors with the Odyssey? Behind the third row, there is plenty of cargo room. In fact, take a look at me. I fit back there just fine, and I'm ready for a nap. On each side, you do have some cubby holes and a 12V outlet. Now on the EXL, you don't get the vacuum like you do with the upper trims, which is why there's extra storage space on the left side. Now the magic seats inside the Odyssey is one of the best, and they really are magical. To fold down the third row, there's no fuss. You simply pull on the strap, pull very hard, and the seats fold down automatically. That's it. You don't need power functions. You don't need anything. It is one of the best designed folding function that I have used. Other manufacturers have similar things, but it's like a two-step process. With the Odyssey, it's one step and that's it. And to lift it back up, just as easy. Now to get in the third row, pretty easy too. In the second row, you simply pull on the lever, it slides forward, and you could get back there. Now, the opening isn't the biggest, but because of the height, I could get back in the third row pretty easily. And once I'm in the third row, man, there's enormous amount of space. Even with the second row all the way back, even lean back a little bit, I still have leg room, and the seats are quite high off the ground. They feel very comfortable. There are actually really good seats, and adults can sit in the third row without any issue. Third row passengers in this EXL, they get a pair of vents, one on each side. There's a 12V outlet on the left side and plenty of cup holders. This EXL does not get sunshades in the third row. Now to get out, there's straps underneath. Simply pull and push, and away you go. Now moving to second row, extremely spacious. Everything is covered in leather, by the way, because this is an EXL. And for 2021, one of the subtle changes on this trim level is you get contrast stitching. So even though the seats are dark gray, you can see the stitching is white. So that is a subtle change for 2021. As for space, there's plenty of it. I'm 5'10", so at least 3 to 4 inches of leg room. Same with headroom, plenty of width. And the seats do slide forward and back and recline. With the EXL, you do get 3 individual seats, and Honda is very proud of this because you can do a lot with these seats. For example, you can remove the middle section and you get captain chairs. You know, captain chairs is very popular these days. So you could get captain chairs, no problem, just remove the middle. And because these are magic seats, you could slide them sideways. So you can actually configure the middle two seats many different ways, and that is very, very cool. Unfortunately, they don't fold into the ground like a Pacifica. I'm sure that's patented in some way, which is why Honda can't do it. But if they did, it would be a whole lot better. Now, another change that I really don't notice is the second row. The seats actually fold down a little bit flatter, and Honda says it's for easier removal. But for me, I'm looking at it, it looks like about the same, and it's not as flat as the middle one, so it is still very difficult to get the seats out. Now, second row passengers get a lot. They get a pair of vents, a lot of cup holders everywhere. There's climate controls on the top. There's also sunshades and USB ports. Now, moving up front, the Odyssey still has a modern and refreshing cabin, and I really like that. I like the dash design, the door panels, the center console, everything in here still works very well. The steering wheel is surprisingly good. It's nice and thick, and it's a good size. It's a big steering wheel. On the right side, you control your adaptive cruise control and your safety features. On the left side, you control volume, telephone, and your info screen inside your gauge cluster. So looking at the gauge cluster, this is the same one as you find in the Pilot and other Hondas. It works okay, a little bit dated in my opinion. You do have the fuel gauge and temperature gauge on both sides. In the middle, you have a digital speedometer and digital tachometer, and there's a little menu where you can select different things, certain apps, trip computer, all that stuff. On the left of the steering wheel, you do have quite a lot of buttons. Again, more buttons for safety features, power liftgate button, and your power doors in the rear. You can open it from here, or you can turn off the power function so they become manual. Also on this EXL, you do get 2 memory seat options. Now, moving to the infotainment screen, the interface is nice and clean, easy to read, big buttons, very responsive. You can see I'm scrolling left and right and going into the menu, no lag at all. You get Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Wi-Fi, and something new for 2021 is called Social Playlist. And as you can see, it's a way for passengers to share their music to the Odyssey via Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth, via Wi-Fi. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen that before. Now, on the bottom, you do get a row of climate control buttons. You can control the front climate, rear climate, and of course you have auto on, fan control, defroster options, the good stuff. Underneath, you do have a couple of switches for your temperature, and it is tri-zone in here, so you have one on each side and one for the rear. Underneath that, you do have heated seats, no ventilated seats. You do have buttons for engine auto start stop, snow mode, economy mode, and you have a button style shifter in the middle. Now underneath you have a little shelf space. You do only have one USB port, not two, and a 12V outlet, and just a whole bunch of space to put a purse or a bag or whatever down there. More cup holders, and inside their center console, you have another USB port and a 12V outlet. On top, underneath the mirror, you have HomeLink buttons, and you have a regular sunroof. Next, let's talk about the powertrain, which didn't change for 2021. This 2021 Odyssey is still powered by a 3.5-liter V6, producing 280 horsepower. It is mated to a 10-speed automatic, and fuel economy comes in around 22 miles per gallon combined, which isn't too shabby in terms of fuel economy and in terms of horsepower and acceleration. So I talked about the outside, the inside, and the powertrain, and I covered the changes for 2021. Next, let me go out on the road and tell you how this Odyssey drives and feels. All right, I'm on the road. So how does this Odyssey feel and drive? Well, I've reviewed many Odysseys in the past, different trim levels, the base one and also the elite one. So this is somewhere right in the middle, and I think most of you guys shopping for Odyssey will look at an EXL like this one. It's well equipped, but isn't too pricey. Now, right off the bat, I always say this in all my Odyssey review videos, is that this is an enormous car. It's huge. It's huge. If you think a 3-row SUV is big, this is even bigger. So if you're coming from a small SUV, a sedan, you have to get used to it. So in terms of parking and driving on narrow, curvy roads, you have to get used to it because this is really wide and very long. But one thing that does help in terms of this length, not only with cargo room and passenger room, which I've already talked about, but also the wheelbase helps with the suspension. I do feel like this Odyssey is more comfortable on the road than even a Honda Pilot. Around where I'm driving, there's plenty of dips, imperfections on the road, and the suspension is soaking up everything beautifully. Now keep in mind this EXL does have 18-inch wheels, so if you move up to, say, the Elite with 19-inch wheels, they get a little bit stiffer, but I think the 18 is just right for the Odyssey. Now, as for the steering, it's about middle of the pack. It feels about the same as a Pilot. There's a vagueness and artificial weight to it, but isn't too bad. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. There is some play in the steering wheel, so it's not too precise, but for most of you guys, I would think this is perfectly adequate. Now, in terms of visibility and driving position, both are phenomenal in here. Let's start with visibility. The windshield is enormous, and the hood, because the way it really slopes down really fast, I don't even see it. So in front of me, I just see everything. So if there's a small kid or something ahead of you, you could definitely see it. So front visibility, great. Side visibility, the windows are enormous. So everything is good, including blind spot. Blind spot is near non-existent, but in case you missed something, there is blind spot monitoring in here, standard. And the rear window too, also nice and big. When you have the third row headrest up, they block your view a little bit. Overall, you can see back there just fine. Now, driving position is also good because this is a minivan, you sit elevated. This is not nearly as high as a midsize SUV, but it's close. It's higher than the compact SUV, so you do get a commanding view of the road, which is a bonus. Now, as for noise level in here, very good as well. I do hear a little bit from the road, but wind noise, cabin noise, cars passing by, almost nothing. Mostly just from the road, and keep in mind I have the radio off. Now, a couple small nitpicks that I have. One is, today is a very hot day, and it's 90+ degree out, so before I started filming, I had the AC on full blast. And it took a long time to cool off this Odyssey. Now, because this is black in color, it probably sat in a lot for a long time, so it was really hot in here, but I feel like the AC system wasn't as strong as I thought it would be. So that's number one nitpick. And number two, these seats, they're leather, they feel good, and they really hold me in, surprisingly, but they feel hot. I really wish there was ventilated seats in here, which you get on the upper trim levels, but not this EXL. Now, all 3 rows of seats are very comfortable, even the third row, and I really like that. This is really made for families, but up front, these seats, very nice. Well bolstered, very comfortable, very wide, and I could sit here for hours and not be uncomfortable. Okay, that was pretty fast. So I just accelerated from about 20 to 60 miles per hour. Now, the engine really became loud, and I really heard the grunt of the engine. No exhaust, just the engine. But this Odyssey, it moved. You know, 280 horsepower on paper doesn't seem like too much these days, but for this Odyssey, surprisingly, that was a lot of grunt. Got up to 60 relatively quick, so you're not gonna have a problem with acceleration in here or passing. I just came to a stop. The brakes are okay. It takes some effort to really stop this Odyssey. So the brake feel is good, but you really have to step on it to make this large minivan come to a stop. So keep that in mind. Now, quick note, I know some of you guys are probably eyeing the brand new 2021 Sienna that's coming out later this year. It does look phenomenally good, but my concern with that minivan is it's a pure hybrid. It's the only powertrain that you can get, and horsepower actually decreases from the 2020 to 2021. And I reviewed a brand new Highlander with a V6 and the old Sienna with a V6, pretty much the same. They were lively drives. The engine is the good one. But I also drove a Highlander hybrid, and that's the engine, the hybrid setup that's going to be in a new Sienna. And there's a big drop off in acceleration between the V6 and the hybrid. So those of you guys that are looking for a Sienna, it's going to get much better fuel economy, but in terms of just passing acceleration, I'm not sure it's going to be adequate for that minivan. But I'm just speculating right now. I'll let you guys know once I actually test drive one. Now, something new for 2021 I didn't mention yet is rear seat reminder. So that's becoming a new thing now, a new safety feature that was added on. So in case you leave your kids or your pet or whatever back there and you forget and you open the door, you'll get a reminder. So that is something new. Now, besides the rear seat reminder, this Odyssey gets the new Honda sensing, which is new and improved. So the adaptive cruise control, now it could come to a full stop and continue on. So that's really good for stop and go traffic. Emergency braking now can detect pedestrian, and also the Odyssey could read speed limit signs now, so that's good. Along with lane assist, auto high beam, and blind spot monitoring, those are all included. So now this Odyssey becomes even safer. Next, let me tell you about pricing and tell you my final thoughts. There are 5 trim levels for the brand new 2021 Odyssey. The base LX starts under $32,000. Next is the EX, then the EXL, which is the one I'm driving, and it starts under $39,000. Finally, you have the Touring and then the Elite, which tops out under $48,000. To conclude, the 2021 Honda Odyssey's refresh is minor, however it builds upon a already fantastic minivan. The Odyssey is ready for any adventure, and its second and third row magic seats are really magical. The ride and drive is comfortable and quiet, and for 2021, safety features are even better. The front end does receive a new look, but it's questionable if customers will actually like it better. I'm giving the new Odyssey a score of 95. To see how it ranks among its peers, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, hit the like and subscribe to the channel for more reviews, first looks, and news.